It's the Field of 68 offseason grades, and we are back. We're doing Gonzaga today. The Bulldogs are, I mean, this feels like a completely new team. This of everybody on this list, we have about 45 different teams we're going to do. I don't think there's one that loses more faces than the Bulldogs. Let's just run through the names. Drew Timme is finally gone. Julian Strother, Rasir Bolter, Malachi Smith, Hunter Salas, Efton Reed, Dominic Harris are all out. As far as newcomers go, the big name is Ryan Nembhard. He is now the second Nembhard brother to make his way to Spokane. Graham Ike from Wyoming was a huge add as well. Steele Venters from Eastern Washington. And Dusty Stromer is the big recruit add for Gonzaga. As far as returnees go, there's not a ton of them. Anton Watson is back. Nolan Hickman is back. Caden Perry, Ben Gregg as well, looking to contribute in larger roles. But Rob, this is a brand spanking new Gonzaga team. Do you like what you see on paper?
I actually do. I have very real questions about their depth, and I think that there is going to be a lot of Mark Few betting on some of the pieces that he's brought in to kind of hit, like Dusty Stromer. You need him to be an impact player on the wing. You need Braden Huff, Ben Gregg to be impact players up front. You need guys like Caden Perry and Junseok Joe to kind of come in there and actually be able to play a role. But if you just strictly look at their starting five, Ryan Nembhard at the point, Graham Ike at the five. Those are the two most important positions when you play a Mark Few offense. You need a guy that can operate in ball screens. You need a big guy that can operate as roll man and can seal in the post. And you need guys that can make shots around him. In theory, Anton Watson, Nolan Hickman, Steele Venters are guys that can make those shots, at least to a point that defenses are going to be forced to guard them. So I think that starting five is good enough. Right. Like if you're going to tell me those are the five that you're going to roll with Gonzaga, you're looking at a team that is a top 20, top 15 kind of a team right there. I have very real questions about their depth, but on paper, like I like this group. Like I think that they are good enough to be able to be a threat and be able to make a little bit of noise in college basketball this season.
I'm skeptical. I think this is one of the wider range teams that we have as far as potential outcomes next year. You could tell me this is a top 10 team in the country. I'd be like, oh yeah, Gonzaga, they've got talent. You could tell me this team like totally bottoms out and for the first time in forever is like maybe not a lock to make the NCAA tournament. I wouldn't think that's that much of a stretch, Rob. You're shaking your head at me already, but like, is Anton Watson the best player on this team?
No. One, Graham Ike.
Who is?
Graham Ike. We're talking about Graham Ike that averaged basically 20 and 10 in the Mountain West in the 21-22 season. Like he was very, very, very good for our Wyoming team that made the NCAA tournament. So I think that you running him at the five in a Mark Few system, he's going to be the guy that basically is like a 17 and 8 kind of a player. He's basically going to be Philip Petrushev, more or less. He's going to have that kind of an impact. And then I think Ryan Nembhard playing in the WCC, just in a role that is going to allow him to do point guard shit, he's going to come in there and he's going to be really effective doing it. So I think you got like your two all league kind of players right there. And when I say I'm in on a Gonzaga, it's because I'm in on those two, right? I think you're bringing in the two guys that can be the stars of your program, that can be your all conference players, that can be the guys that average. Look, let's say Ryan Nembhard averages 15 and 5. Graham Ike averages 17 and 8. From there, you basically need to fill out your roster with role players. I think Anton Watson can be the 4 in that offense. I think Steele Venters can be your floor spacing 6'7", 2/3 that is just kind of out there to play a little bit of defense, make a bunch of threes, and force defenses to pay attention to him. And I think that Nolan Hickman, if he's your third or fourth option offensively, is like, maybe that's not the greatest thing in the world, but he was also a McDonald's All-American heading into his junior season. So maybe this is the year he puts it together. If he is a 10 points per game guy, couple of assists, couple rebounds, play a little bit of defense, shoot it well enough for three, the defenses have to respect you. I don't think that that is a horrible situation to be in. And I think you're in a much better spot than a lot of other teams around the country. This is not going to be the Gonzaga of 2021, the Gonzaga of 2022, the Gonzaga of 2019, the team that had Brandon Clark and Rui Hachimura. This is not like a number one team in the country kind of a roster. And it feels weird when you talk about Gonzaga and you don't have that kind of a roster put together, but they're going to be good. They're going to be like a 5 seed in the tournament. They're going to have, with the right matchup, be a threat to make a run in March. And the last thing I'll say is this, Greg. When it comes down to it, What you really need in college basketball are 5 guys with a couple pieces off the bench that in March can give you 10 to 12 minutes here or there. Look at what North Carolina did in 2022 when they made their run, right? There are a lot of teams that really only have 6 to 7 guys in college basketball and can get it done. You don't have to have that deep of a bench when everyone worries about the month of March in this sport. You got to be able to make a run in that month. And I think that they have the pieces in theory that it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yes, I agree the pieces are there. I think the scenarios that you just talked through all were pretty close to the best case scenario. I think the best case scenario for this Gonzaga team is that 5 seed in the NCAA tournament you talked about. It could happen. I'm not saying it couldn't, but this is a team that, as far as returnees go, returns 2 guys that played more than 11 minutes a game last season. And those are not my favorite 2 guys, to put it lightly, not to be too rude here, too antagonistic towards Nolan Hickman and Anton Watson. But is Hickman an off-ball guy now with Ryan Nembhard? That's supposed to work. I don't like that fit at all. I don't think he's useful off the ball really at all, and I didn't love him on the ball. Anton Watson, I think, is solid. I think if he does slot in next to EK, you really like that front court. I think it's more likely Watson is the best player in this front court. No offense to Graham EK. I just think the scenario you laid out for him, again, is the best case scenario. It could happen, but I think it's more likely Watson takes a jump and is like the featured guy in this front court instead of EK. But beyond that, like, even if those 4 hit, if we're saying we love Nembhard, Hickman, EK, and Watson, everything else is a massive question mark. And I feel like there are some guys that departed this team that I would feel totally different about this group if they returned. Like, I think I'd really like this team if Hunter Salas was back and we could throw him in the group that might break out. I still think I could enjoy having Efton Reed potentially on this team as a backup big. I don't know which guards could have had another year of eligibility. I think Malachi Smith could have. I would have much rather had Malachi Smith back than some of these others. And this isn't the strongest Mark Few recruiting class. No offense to Dusty Stromer. Alex Tuhey was supposed to be on this team next year. He's not going to be now. So, look, it just feels shallow to me, first of all. Like, there's not too many guys on this roster, and the guys that are on this roster, you're expecting large leaps compared to anything they've ever done in college. Like I said, it could happen, but I think that's a very rosy outlook that it does happen. What is your expectation for this group? You kind of hinted at it already, but
you skipped the X factors again. This guy.
I skipped to X Factor. No, we're doing expectation first, then X.
Okay, we can do expectation first. So I think the expectation should be top 4 seed in the tournament, win a game or 2. And compete for a WCC title. Like, here's the honest to God truth.
Whoa.
St. Mary's is the best team in the WCC this year. They just are, right? Like, I don't think this is necessarily arguable. I think that St. Mary's is probably the best team. Gonzaga is probably the second best team. But like, competing with St. Mary's right there, make it come down to the weekend. You know what? Let's put it like this. The expectation should be winning one of the WCC titles, whether it's the regular season or the tournament title. You're Gonzaga. You should win at least one of those titles this year, win a game or 2 in the tournament. That's about what you are this season to me.
Okay. I'm going to laugh at you forever if you say the expectation is compete for the West Coast Conference at Gonzaga. The expectation is win that conference, even if they're not better than St. Mary's. Like, come on, what are we doing here? Now, I'm with you. I think St. Mary's is a better team. I'm very skeptical of this Gonzaga group, but the expectation has to be win this conference, if not more than that. But I think a fair expectation is win this conference. I think they can do it. I'm not so sure that they will. To the X factor, the aforementioned X factor. A lot of names you could pick here, Rob. This is like I feel like some of the other ones we've done have been pretty obvious of an answer here. Who are you going with for the X factor for Gonzaga next season?
I think that it is probably Nolan Hickman, right? I know what I expect out of Ryan Nembhard. He's going to be an all WCC point guard. I know what I expect out of Graham Ike. He's going to be an all WCC 5-man. I think Anton Watson, you kind of know what he is at the 4. And I think with Steel Venters, you kind of know what the role he's going to step in and play on a wing. Nolan Hickman is the guy that has the talent. Nolan Hickman is the guy that has the breakout potential. Nolan Hickman is the guy that if you can get him to being a 13 points, 3.5 assists, shoot 36% from three, kind of a dude as a secondary piece, as playing the Joel Ayayi role next to Jalen Suggs, playing the Andrew Nembhard role on this team. I think you're looking at a situation where you have a very, very, very good backcourt and a very, very good basketball team.
Yeah, I think as far as on court goes, I agree. I think that's the biggest swing piece. It's like if Hickman is really good and takes a huge jump forward from what he was last year, then I buy Gonzaga. If he's the same guy again, I think this team could be in trouble. I might take a cop-out answer here for my X factor. My X factor is Mark Few, Rob, because I think all the pieces are here as we've laid it out. There's talent in this group. But I think these puzzle pieces don't necessarily make a clear puzzle. I think Mark Few is going to have to pull a knife out and start cutting pieces to make these fit together. I think it could happen. I think he's that good of a coach. I really do. I think he's one of the top 5 guys in the country that I would say, hey, let's just throw some talented pieces together and figure out what Mark Few can make of it. But this is, to me, the toughest in-season job he's had in years. There is no Chet Holmgren. There is no Drew Timme. There is no safety net of let's roll the ball out and I can just play my starters 39.5 minutes against Pepperdine and win by 45 points. This year, he has to work for it. Like I said, I trust him to figure it out, but it's not the clearest picture for me. This will be a really, really good test for where Mark Few is at in his career at Gonzaga. And it is time to give our grades for the Gonzaga offseason. We have agreed on back-to-back teams as we've made these videos this morning. Rob, what is your grade for the Bulldogs offseason thus far?
I'm going to give them another B+. And the reason I'm going to give them a B+ is I think that you probably got one of the top 2 point guards in the portal, and you got one of the top 2 to 3 big guys that were in the portal, in Graham Ike and Ryan Nembhard. And those are the 2 most important positions for you if you are Mark Few. You also lost a whole bunch of pieces, and you didn't necessarily add a ton of depth. And one of the more exciting newcomers that you were supposed to have coming in Alex Tui, decided just this week, I guess just in late June, that he was going to head to the NBL Next Stars program instead of coming and playing for Gonzaga. So there were a lot of positives, and you got 2 players that are going to be all conference caliber that are going to be the linchpins of your program this season. And you lost a lot of pieces that could have made it much more comfortable and palatable to say that this is a team that is going to be a Final Four threat this year. I don't necessarily think that they are. I think they're a second weekend threat. I think that they can and should compete with and maybe beat out St. Mary's for a WCC title. But to me, it's a solid B+ for Gonzaga.
Okay, for reference here, I gave Michigan and Illinois respectively a D+ and a D. I'm giving Gonzaga a D-, Rob. This is one of my least favorite off seasons any team in the country has had. I just don't like it. I love Ryan Nembhard. I love Graham Ike. That's it. Maybe that alone should be higher. I think this team lost a bunch I would have liked to see back, just point blank. I feel totally different about this if Salas and Efton Reed are back. I feel totally different about it if Smith is back. They knew they were going to lose Drew Timme and Strother. I don't think they knew they were going to lose 7 guys. That's very different. This is not just hey, it's a new team. This is almost immediately a new era. And I think that's going to hit harder for this group than people realize. It would be another thing if they had a great recruiting class coming in. Dusty Stromer might be good. He might not play a ton this year on a team that really needs him to play a ton this year. So for me, it's hard. It's hard to square the 7 losses with 2 guys I really like and say that's not a massive step backwards. And I think, to be honest, Rob, I think transparently, the fact that you and I had to put a little hesitation on can they win the West Coast Conference speaks to how much of a step backwards this is just going to be on paper for a Gonzaga team that we've just said is the best team in the country for about 6 straight years running right now. Now that speaks to how high it was. That speaks to how high it still can be under Mark Few. This year, I'm not so sure it's going to be there from a basketball standpoint, but we'll see. I'd love to be wrong. Gonzaga fans, you can yell at me. My DMs are open And I also pay attention to the Field of 68's DMs if you want to yell at us there. We're going to do a bunch of these. We're in the first quarter of our recordings for our off-season grades series. You can find them all on the Field of 68 YouTube channel, where there will be over 40 different videos for some of the best teams in the country. For Rob Doster, my name is Greg Waddell, and we will see you next time.
Our partner for today's episode is Athletic Greens. I started taking AG1 during the college basketball season, and I loved the impact that it had on my energy levels. I'm a big coffee in the morning guy, but by the time that the afternoon would hit, I needed another boost. AG1 helped me tremendously, especially on those days when I didn't want to get up off the couch and go hit the gym. Their tagline is AG1 is comprehensive health and the power of habit in one. And man, that could not be more true. It's nearly impossible to eat and drink in a healthy manner in the month of February and the month of March when you are in my business. And AG1 was exactly the supplement that I needed to improve my gut health and cover my nutritional basis for the day. I've continued that into April. I've continued that into May, and I'm going to continue that the rest of the summer. All I have to do is mix a scoop of AG1 with some water, or maybe add it into a smoothie, and I'm ready to go. Do it after lunch, and you'll be ready to go for the rest of the day. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/field68. That's field 68 FIELD, the number 6, the number 8, and you can get yours now. So check it out and help support this show. Thanks.